Welcome, everybody. We are back. We are at the Crypt for another amazing interview. Really enjoying doing these interviews for you guys. I'm learning so much, and as I always tell you guys, I enjoy learning about things, and as much as you guys do. I really do enjoy researching a lot of different things. As you guys well know now, I talk about it all the time on here in my radio show. I'm very big in the natural law and learning about the occult, the occulted information, I should say, out there, and meeting a lot of great people, interviewing a lot of great people, and I'm actually getting a lot of great feedback, it seems, from when I do these interviews with a lot of special guests I'm getting on here who are covering these topics, and I actually am getting emails, usually within the same day after I premiere it, telling me that they're really enjoying the interviews, they're enjoying the information. So I think that is really positive. I think that we are making a difference. Slowly, the more of us that are talking about these topics, it's getting out there. And I super enjoyed it. It's something you guys know. I've told you guys on other shows. I've been looking into this for probably over 5 years now. So I'm so happy to have a great guest on here that can just cover these topics. And I just like having discussions with them. And whatever questions come to my mind, I ask them. And I love that style. And I love doing it this way. This is the way I do things. So I really enjoy doing that. I know you guys are enjoying it. So just want to let you know that this is going to be a great show. I have a great guest. I had him on just recently, and we were talking about freedom and a lot of other great things. So I want to welcome him back once again here. Hello, Mr. Will Keller. How are you? And welcome back to the show.
Hey, Rick. How's it going? Thanks for having me, man. It's a pleasure.
Oh, it's a pleasure having you. I mean, I got great feedback from our last interview that we did. A lot of people enjoyed it. And actually, I got emails right after it, and I'm getting emails from, as you know, I've had Leslie Powers on, I've had Chris Jansen, I've had a couple other people on, and I've had Brandon on, and I seem to be getting emails as soon as I premiere them, usually within an hour or so. I get emails, people saying that they're really enjoying the information, and they're starting to look into it. So I think that's a great positive thing that is happening here.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome, man. Those are phenomenal content creators with just powerful messages that I'm happy to hear people are receptive to that. That's
right.
Awesome.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And I'm really passionate about these topics. For one thing, it's something I've been looking into, as I said, beginning for a lot of years. And it's a lot when you start taking it in. That's one thing I have to say. Like, when you start looking into this, there's a lot to take in and then digest and kind of understand. So I find myself going over, I really learned a lot from Mark Passio. As I've told you, I've watched his presentations many, many times over, just to make sure I get the information. And then now I'm starting to branch out definitely and watch other creators like yourself and all the other people I've mentioned. And I'm learning so much, and and I like it because I'm getting a different look at it, right? Like, I mean, it's great to look at other creators and how they present their styles and the topics they cover, and it kind of gives you a bigger picture. So I really enjoy, and I'm really happy that I'm starting to meet people like yourself and, the topics that you cover and seeing it from your angle. I love that. It's really amazing, and I'm learning a lot that way.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good to hear it.
Yeah.
I mean, these messages that myself and you and the content creators that you mentioned, I mean, these are universal messages that that should be common sense. So It's nice that a lot of people are starting to talk about it and express the knowledge in their own creative expression. That's awesome.
Right. I agree. And we got to get more people doing the work. And the one presentation that I really liked that you did was the one on conscious parenting. I thought that was really cool. And it was kind of really neat because I've been talking a lot. I don't have any children myself. I can't for medical reasons. But I do have a lot of friends that have children that I hang around. And so I do see what's going on with parenting in a lot of cases. And I'm very observant when I see parents out with their children, even when I'm in public. And I just kind of you kind of notice, you know what I mean? Like how the kids are and stuff like that. I mean, when you're visiting your friends and you're at their house, you kind of see how their kids are acting and what's going on. And so it was kind of something I've been talking with my friends who have kids, talking to them about and stuff like that. And so I think this is a great topic because I saw that presentation of yours, which was amazing. I really recommend it. I'm going to make sure I put a link in the description to that presentation, Will, because I think It's powerful. And I'm just going to dive into this. And like I said, you got to just be patient with me, Will, and everybody. Like I said, I don't have kids, but that doesn't mean that I can't see what's going on. And I do know that the children coming up behind us our future, right? They're the ones that are going to shape the future coming up behind us. And so I think it's really important that they get a great start and a proper start. And I don't see that. So I just want to get your take on what's going on. And then I'll let you know what I'm seeing in my end of things. But so wherever you want to start with this, Will, and we'll just start at that point.
Yeah, no, excellent, man. Yeah, even if someone doesn't have kids, they can still, the information that we're going to go over today applies to them as well.
Right.
And looking throughout, this is what I do and what many other people do. We can get a current and accurate depiction of what humanity's current condition is by looking at human behavior throughout the years. And this has a lot to do with parenting as well. We can see how the psychology and the behavior of the boomers versus the Gen X and millennials nowadays, right? We can
Right.
see that there is there's there's a devolving and a snowball effect within behavior as the control system gets stronger and tighter and tighter. These
Right.
are directly related. And it stems from incorrect parenting.
Right.
And, I guess I'll preface this whole interview that we're doing right now with to people, to two parents, right? This might be extremely hard to hear as a lot of the information that I talk about, right? Because parenting is one of those topics where it's like taboo to talk in negative terms, you could say, or to tell someone that they're parenting incorrectly. So we're going to squash that right now and, try to detach the emotions and listen to the information that we're going to talk about today.
Right.
Because it definitely applies to every parent for sure. And that's a blanket statement. And you could utilize this information to create freedom within your family dynamic, within yourself, and most importantly, pass it on to your children.
100%. And that was, I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that and I kind of forgot at the beginning. Talking to my friends who have children, when you start talking about parenting, I found out something very, very quickly. Will they get defensive quick when you start talking about parenting.
Oh
and
yeah.
and I wasn't even commenting on their parenting. That's the weird part that I found with a couple of my friends. I didn't go at their parenting and attack them. I was just talking about parenting, and I kind of brought up that if I had children, I would definitely not put them in the school system. I would homeschool, and they got so upset with me. It was really weird to see how quickly they react. Like it was like it went right into, you think I'm a bad parent. What are you
Hmm.
saying? And I was just like, whoa, I wasn't saying that, but I'm glad you said that. It is a very sensitive subject, but it's
Yeah.
one that needs to be talked about. It has to be talked about, no matter how sensitive it is.
Absolutely. And I'm definitely here today. There's no such thing as a perfect parent because there's no such thing as perfection in this reality.
Right.
We are here to learn and to do better. And so there's no such thing as a perfect parent, but you can hold and discover correct knowledge and then apply that and have a correct outcome as well.
Right.
And that's why people get defensive, right? Because it kind of you're implying they need to look at themselves. And when something stings, some type of topic or information, it hits them like right in the soul.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of programming and conditioning that has been passed down to us from our parents. So not only are we going to look at incorrect and correct modalities of parenting and topics of parenting, but this applies to our parents as well,
Yeah.
and their parents, our grandparents and great great grandparents. This has been a digress for many many generations, for thousands of years actually, if we get down into it. But we're going to try to stay in the here and now.
Right.
So I think a good place to start is, what is parenting,
Great point.
right?
Yeah.
And this is a condition thing too, right? When you ask, again, and this is the style of mine that I'm adopting and kind of really getting into, is simplify the profound. So these basic questions can really stump people and make people fumble, right? So what does it mean to be a parent? Now, my presentation is on conscious parenting.
Right.
So what is conscious parenting? Conscious, right, meaning awareness or a being's ability to recognize patterns in oneself and respectively in one's environment,
Right.
meaning you have an awareness of what's going on around you and what's going on internally inside you. So that's conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Simply say awareness, right? And then parenting. So being an aware parent. Now, parenting isn't really the best term because the majority of parents think that they own their child or their children,
Right.
um, and that they have authority over their children. And we're gonna get into that a little bit later. But
Okay.
what what's really going on is that you help create a being, the vessel for a being to come here, to have an experience and to learn and grow and evolve in consciousness. This is why we're all here,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you are a facilitator of the beginning stages, actually of the experience, but mainly in the beginning stages. And you're always going to be a parent, right? Even when you're a grandparent, you're still a parent, right? So you
Yep.
still have influence in that relationship and stuff, but you're a facilitator. You're entrusted with one's care, meaning, and I'm going to kind of reference certain age groups because it's
Okay.
important to talk about age groups. So let's talk about from birth to um, 10 years old, right? From birth to 7 years old, 7 or 8. This is the formative years.
Formative. Right.
This is the most important and crucial years of your child's life because just like computer jargon formatting, it's a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
You're laying down the foundational principles on how the operating system or how your child is going to operate in the mind, right? And emotionally. And then from there, within their actions. So it's laying the foundations. So this is a good start. An aware parent, a facilitator, and the information that I focus on is, well, aware of what, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of parents that are not aware of certain things.
For
And
sure.
this is really important. So we are raising children. The word raising, what does that mean? Most people think, well, I provide, I take care of my kids till they're 18, and then they get out of the house, get a job, work a 9 to 5, make lots of money and have a family of their own,
Yep.
right? The good old, I mean, this is cliche. This is what society thinks human beings should do, right?
Yep.
But when we're raising a child, what that means is we're raising their consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
We're helping them. We're facilitating them becoming a better moral being. And this is really, really crucial to understand. This is the
Right.
very basic stuff.
Right.
And unfortunately, nowadays, people don't think about this kind of stuff. This brings it back to philosophy. Philosophy is internal dialogue that you have with oneself, and you ask these deep questions, and you really think about them and do some introspection. And there are correct answers for
Right.
sure.
Yes. Yep.
So
And that's a great point. I'm glad that you brought up the formative years because I was before this interview for because I know we've been talking about doing this interview for a couple weeks. So I really when I sit with myself and I think I really thought about your presentation. Like it really did make me start thinking about my childhood and stuff. Like trying to remember things that are still with me that I've taken with me, and I try to remember when I learned them. That was my big I was writing it down. I was doing my notes, and I was trying to remember all the things that I remember from a very very young that I still carry with me. And you are so correct, Will, because I was very fortunate, and I know a lot of kids don't have this luxury anymore, where I had a parent that was, my mother was always home to raise us. So my dad was the one who would work, and my mom was here for till I was probably about, got into high school, so about 15 or so, or somewhere around there. That's when my mom went back to work, but she wanted to make sure that she was in the house raising her children. She wanted to be here. She didn't want to just, have a babysitter do it or nothing. So my mom was always here, and I remember that. And I remember the lessons that she was teaching me at a young age. And it's really weird, because when I was growing up, the things I remember when I think back to my childhood for my parents, school's a whole different thing. That's a really bad experience. But at home, what my mom was teaching me in those formative years that you're speaking about was about, she had me out in nature constantly. Like, I was learning about nature. She would bring me for walks in nature every day after, when she could, after school and stuff. We'd be in the woods learning stuff. She was teaching me gardening and stuff, and how to grow stuff and that. So I think I was very fortunate to have a mother that could have the time to do that. And she was very like hands-on, and was teaching me stuff, and I think that was so important. I think that's a great thing that you bring up. I don't think, and I know it's by design now, Will, that parents don't have they make it so parents can't spend time with their kids, right? Because they want them in the school system so quick, so they got both parents working. So I mean, I'm kind of all over it, but like, I just wanted to bring that up. Then sorry, I'm kind of talking so much, but I just wanted you to know that really impacted me with your presentation. I really did think back to the stuff that I've carried with me, and it was very much at those early years that I remember, that have always
Awesome.
stuck with me.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's part about, I mean, becoming a parent, we usually do some reflection on how we were raised.
Right.
And this is where we're going to diagnose a problem, is that we humanity in general, right? This is called generational, it's psychological transference,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that the way we were raised, there's a lot of behaviors and ideologies and belief systems that we actually pass down to our children,
Right.
right? We don't hash them out, and we don't think deeply upon them and see what is true or false, or even question it. We just pass it right on
Mm-hmm.
down to our children. Now, a lot of people might hear this and go, "Oh, I don't do that. I don't do that." I mean, my great grandparents, I mean, that was a different time period, and racism was like really bad, and we're not like that, and my kids aren't like that. That's not the type of stuff that I'm talking about. I'm talking about deeper principles.
Right.
And as you can see, how you were telling me about your story, that's beautiful that your mom did that.
Yeah.
That's great. Nowadays, the divide within the family dynamic is getting crushed,
Right.
because time, right, and attention. Both parents nowadays are working and have to provide. Now people are putting their kids in, it used to be kindergarten and then preschool, and now they have, I forget what it's called. It's something before preschool.
Before I heard that, right? I've
Yeah,
seen that. Yep.
exactly. And then even before that, you have, daycare and stuff like that. So let's pull back for a second, and we need a correct diagnosis of what's going on, and let's look at society, the
Okay.
big picture for a minute, right? Hopefully, anyone that's listening to your channel and stuff, they understand that there are social engineers. There's a control system that is enslaving humanity,
Right.
and this is where they focus. They want to continue and progress enslavement and slavery, and they do it within the family dynamic, because if you can distract the older generations and program and condition the younger generations, then those younger generations, they grow up, and then they make the new slave system,
Yep.
right? They support and condone the new slave system. So you see the wheel of control and tyranny keeps turning, and parents are contributing to this,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's the big picture. There's generational mind control going on that most parents aren't even aware of,
Right.
and the social engineers know this.
All too well.
This is their main focus,
Yep.
is to destroy freedom. You destroy freedom in the family first. You put a wedge between the children and the parents,
Right.
and put a wedge between mom and dad as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because mom and dad, if they're in conflict, that automatically transfers to the children,
Yep.
and and who suffers the most out of any type of conflict within the family is the children,
The
of
children.
course.
Yes.
So looking at today's modern age, right? I mean, it's the numbers are ridiculous on how many single parents they are, and how many moms and dads aren't even in the picture.
Right. Right.
It's
And I
very
remember.
rare that
Yes.
parents actually can get along and and co-parent
Yeah.
well.
Because when I was in school, I was thinking back too that from what I remember, all of my friends they had parents like a mother and father in the household, and it was very uncommon for if a child that they didn't have their parent like in this. I'm just speaking for my case. I mean, I'm in when I was growing up. All of my friends had both parents in the house and stuff like that, and it was kind of if they didn't have both parents in the house, we kind of looked at that as weird as kids. Like you don't have both parents living in your house, like you don't have your dad's not living there, it's just your mom. So kind of that thing. But now, from what I've seen, it's really rare to have both parents in the house. It's kind of done a flip. Like it's what I've seen over my lifetime is that you're seeing now it's really rare to have both parents in the house raising their child. It's usually one parent or another doing it in the cases that I'm looking at. So that's really
Yeah.
they flipped it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, and that's done intentional, and there's been a lot of, um, a lot of programming and conditioning with that as well.
Right.
And this is where the parents need to step up, and first and foremost, parents need to educate themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and then look in the mirror at themselves and apply some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about, and then communicate with the other parent as well, and then apply them into your life.
Right.
So, um, one of the main things that we need to talk about is morality,
Right.
right? This is the number one thing in society that is lacking, is that the majority of humanity are not moral human beings. In
Yep.
fact, they don't even know what morality is.
Very
The
true.
correct definition of morality, right? The difference between right behavior and wrong behavior. That any wrongdoing, there's the initiation of harm,
Yes.
right? So, I mean, obviously, and then human rights come with that as well, right? So,
Yes.
this is why we have a police state, and why we're enslaved. And government is just, I mean, in every facet of everyone's life, and is continuing and trying to progress to get worse,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, what do parents need to know, right? Well, first thing is looking at your own programming and conditioning and healing from that. Because most parents, they react instead of responding to their children.
Right. Big difference.
Their whole parenting style, for the most part, is based on the child's behavior. The child does an incorrect behavior that the parent deems incorrect, then, stop doing that. Go to your room, or, they'll discipline
Right.
upon the incorrect behavior that they believe. When instead of um, asking themselves that the child has some kind of need or is expressing themselves, and you need to respond to this, right? This is what responsibility as a parent is, your ability to respond.
Right.
So, I'm all about my work when it comes to conscious parenting is about child rights and child needs. So we can create conscious beings, human beings that understand what morality is and the difference between right and wrong. So we're talking about principles, and morality and rights are number one. And I have a daughter. She's almost 9, and I am in a co-parenting situation, so I have the whole gambit. Um, so I look at my daughter, right, not as she's my child that I own, right? I see it as a companion. I give her the respect as I would give you, Rick, or anyone else, any of my loved ones, right? I
Right.
don't see myself at a higher level than her when it comes to respect and rights. So I honor her rights as well. Now, again, I'm a facilitator, right? So I can help guide her to learn certain lessons that she wants to learn. But people nowadays, they sacrifice their children. It's modern day sacrifice. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they give up their child very early on, very early, to government institutions,
Right.
right?
Yep.
Public school, schooling, and culture. Culture is the strong arm of the social engineers because culture cultivates. What does it cultivate? It cultivates an operating system.
Hmm.
It cultivates how the psyche operates, and therefore it can manipulate and influence someone's worldview on how they see the world,
For sure.
which all behavior is directed by your perception.
Hmm.
So how you view the world will dictate your behavior. This is why it is crucial to understand objective morality and natural rights so you can have a more accurate perception on how reality actually operates.
For sure.
What is real and what is false.
Right, and that's the one thing I can say that I safely can say I think a lot of parents are not teaching objective morality and natural law. That's I mean, not that I've seen. I mean, I don't even think most of them even really have looked into that, and I think that's probably I know that's the reason we are where we are. And it's true when you say that they and what's really disturbing to me, Will, and I because I think about it is they're attacking children now so young. They're trying to influence them younger and younger and younger, right? Like you see them through like TV, through social media and everything like that, and they're really going. They are grabbing them young. Like I mean, and like you said, it's even like now you had preschool, and then you had kind of like kindergarten and all that, but now you got preschool and then daycare and that.
Hmm.
So they're not around the family, and then I see how they're trying to go at them with all the media and stuff like that. It's really it does bother me so much when I see what they're doing, that they are attacking so young. And then when you have a parent that doesn't even know what objective morality is, never looked into it, never looked into rights and natural law, the child's already starting at a deficit. And I mean, from right from birth, right? I mean, like, how
Yeah.
they don't got a chance hardly, if especially if the parents aren't educated.
Yeah, they definitely have a chance, but you're right. It is worse nowadays as technology increases and parental ignorance and yeah, their ignorance of just morality and
Yeah.
what's going on in the world.
Mm-hmm.
See, people think that they're a good parent. They're a good person by, I put my kids in school and all this kind of
Yeah,
stuff. But
they're
that's
fed, they got clothes, they got all the latest gadgets.
yeah,
That makes them a
yep.
good parent, and I'm like, no, no.
Exactly, exactly. And you know, what makes a good parent is oh, I love my kids, right? I love my kids. That's good enough.
Yeah,
No, you need to be your child's freedom advocate,
right,
meaning you have to be the example and be the mentor, right? To show them and encourage them and inspire them to know what freedom is and to help them recognize and then create freedom in their own life as
right,
well.
right,
So learning is a big thing, and a lot of people think that this is how you do it. Preschool, kindergarten, public school, and the kids go all the way up until their education is done.
right.
Right? A lot of people think that.
Yep.
I thought that at some point in my life. Well, I already did my schooling. I've learned more in my life in the last 12 years than I did all through junior
Me
college,
too.
high school, and all that, right? And
Yep.
here's why. And this is something really important that parents need to know. And this works with just human beings in general. Um, Learning. There is natural and artificial learning. Now, for you to actually learn, a human being, to actually learn and retain that information, you have to be internally motivated,
Right.
meaning that you really want to learn about this, about a topic. You're internally motivated. Something's motivating you to learn more about it. For instance, my daughter, she loves, taking care of animals, and she wants to help animals, right? So we did this apprenticeship over at this farm by my house, right? And I mean, it had just the biggest impact on her, and she loved it, and she gathered so much knowledge, and she still retains almost all of that today. When you look at public school, right, kids are just counting down the days until summer or spring break or whatever, right? And then they don't retain most of that information.
Right.
That's because artificial learning is being forced upon them. It's coercion
Yep.
at a child's level, right? You have to go to school, you have to do this, you have to ask to go to the bathroom and all this stuff. So and that's what public school is there for. This is indoctrination. The word indoctrination means to speak into, to imbue an ideology. And this is where America and many other countries where they get their educational system. In America, it comes from the Prussian system, where the system was to make and create better workers.
Yep.
No critical thinking. Don't question authority. Obey. Be complicit, and then go do that 9 to 5. America had adopted that same model, and it's continuing nowadays. I
For sure.
mean, just look at the day and age. You could almost ask, the majority of people, even if they're not aware, I mean, college is a scam. Hopefully people understand this by now, right? It
Yes.
is a scam for sure. But yet, thousands and thousands of people do it because they're programmed and conditioned to think this is what you do. If you're going to get a good job, right, then you have to go to college and do all that.
Right.
But it's the programming and the conditioning that's just making them become good, obedient slaves. And
Yep.
the parents are the ones that are contributing to this. See, parents lost the responsibility to be the facilitator, because the education is upon the parent to be a mentor and to be the example, to teach your children what morality is, and to have the know-how and the skill sets to teach your children how to fall in love with learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? And guide them so they can become whoever they want to be.
Yes.
And a lot of high school kids, in their senior year, they graduate, they don't know who they are on a deep level or what they want to do.
Yep.
They're just going through the conveyor belt.
Exactly. And I think about the amount of hours, like when I think back to my schooling, and I'm sure you would agree, the amount of hours that they keep children in school is mind-boggling to me. Because when you start looking at how the brain learns, anybody that looks into it will see very quickly that your brain's only good at learning for a certain amount of time. Like you can put a kid in school for 12 hours. He's not going to hold 12 hours of information. The brain needs time to take in information and kind of like mull it around and digest it, is what I call it. And so, I mean, I've done quite a bit of research, and I've found in some countries where they teach kids only for maybe 3 or 4 hours a day, and they're doing it out in nature and stuff like that. The kids are learning. They're so smart, and the way they're learning, that they're taking their grades are through the roof and everything. And then you look how we're doing it in where I live in Canada, in the U.S., and I mean, it's not happening here. It's just they got kids in school for like what 8 or 9 hours a day, and then they load them up with homework when they get home. It's no
Correct.
wonder
Yeah.
where we are. It's the way they are. Like, I mean, how they have no time to be a kid and digest anything.
Yeah, it's extremely damaging to a child. The
Yes.
way the
Yeah.
way how society operates now with schooling and stuff, you're actually doing physical damage to the brain by
Right.
consistently trying to cram and force information. The neural pathways are just locking up and deadening up. I mean, it's like you said, learning is in It's in sections,
Yep.
and it doesn't have a schedule, right? The true schoolyard is reality, the world itself, right?
Exactly.
And learning is sporadic.
Yep.
I mean, topics are sporadic, and this is what I mean about like parents looking at their own programming and conditioning, because they think at a certain age your child does this, and then at another age, they should be potty trained by this age, and
Yep.
and there's a lot of stuff that we can even talk about programming and conditioning. One thing that's pretty popular is they tell parents, well, they like the priest in lab coats or doctors or
Yeah. Yeah.
or
So-called authority.
yeah, exactly. They say, oh well, you should don't have your baby sleep with you for that long. Put
Yeah,
them in
I've
the
heard
crib,
this.
and if the baby cries, let the baby
Let the
cry
baby
out. Let
cry
the
it
baby
out.
cry it out. Exactly.
Yep.
I mean,
That's so
this is all
unnatural.
bullshit.
Yeah,
It's complete bullshit.
that's so unnatural, Will. If a baby's crying, even I know that, and I'm not a parent, but just leaving your child crying in the crib and saying let them cry it out on a soul level for me seems so wrong. That's so not natural. I
Yeah.
mean it. Never mind. I'll go.
Children need love and a world full of resources.
Hmm.
And this is something that I do with the with unschooling and internal motivation for learning, is when your child is into something, then be the facilitator and go, oh, you want to learn about gardening? Okay, let's go gather some information. Let's
Hmm.
go, and you're also teaching them critical thinking with the trivium as well, right? Grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Right. Yeah.
Gather
Cover
the
that a little bit, Will.
information. Oh yeah, sure.
Let's cover
So
the trivium because maybe some people listening don't even know what you mean by the trivium.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So the trivium, um, the trivium is it's Latin for trace. Trace is three,
Hmm.
or tria, and then vium is path or road. So this is the three-way path to truth discovery. This is the process of critical thinking,
Hmm.
the actual process. Now, they've taken this out of public schools a few hundreds of years
Yeah,
ago.
they're not teaching it now.
Exactly, exactly. And but what it is grammar, logic, and rhetoric.
Hmm.
Or in the mystery traditions, it was understood as knowledge, understanding, and wisdom.
Right.
So, and then for even a more basic terminology, we can look at it as more like a modern computer jargon with input, processing, and then output. So the first stage of grammar or knowledge or input would be to gather the data, gather as much information on any given topic to the best of your ability
Right.
from an eclectic array of sources. So you gather all your data. Step two, which is logic or understanding or processing, is you filter through that information. You see anything that relates to each other, or any inconsistencies. You process and filter the information, the who, what, when, um, and then you get to the third stage, and that is rhetoric or wisdom or output.
Hmm.
You come to your conclusion based on what you gathered and processed. You come to your conclusion, and then you can output in behavior or
Right.
wisdom, right?
Yep.
Knowledge applied. So the trivium, I mean, I'm going to do a very in-depth presentation on the trivium, because the trivium can be applied to all aspects of life,
Right.
and
Yep.
you can do this with young children as well, right? So you can be the facilitator of this process. Now, there's also the quadrivium. The quadrivium is for older kids, teenagers, and that is a four pathway that also uses the trivium as well as the five senses.
Hmm.
So, and that's for older kids. But the trivium itself is the foundation
Right.
of discovering truth, and also understanding how reality operates
Right.
as well.
Yes. Yes. And they're not teaching that in school now. It's just what can you memorize, right? And then regurgitate it out on a test, and that is supposedly shows how much knowledge you have. And that's not the way, like you just the way you broke it down. They're not teaching that now. It's just cram it all into your head. How much can you memorize, and then put on a test. They're not
Yes.
teaching critical thinking at all, from what I can see.
Exactly, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. And that's what they want to do. They want to atomize the children. They
Right.
want to put them in just little boxes, right? This is what culture and public school does. It's all about suppressing consciousness,
Hmm.
conditioning the minds, molding them, right? So education, I mean, you look at um, the Carnegies and Rockefeller and all these people, man, they had just huge influences on public education. I
Right.
highly recommend parents do the research, gather the information, look up John Taylor Gatto. He's got a handful of books. They're all phenomenal.
Okay.
Highly recommend checking that out, and I'll send you some links to his books as well, Rick.
Oh, that'd be great. Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So real quick to finish on the trivium and the quadrivium. The quadrivium is the four path, and that's arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy.
Okay.
So sticking and this is if you want a curriculum, right? And then maybe from this we can get into homeschooling and unschooling and
Right.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But this is the curriculum. The curriculum is the trivium and the quadrivium applied to your child and to life.
Hmm.
Meaning, it's the children, it's self-directed learning. So what they're interested in, right? You promote that and then show them and help and guide them to use the trivium and the quadrivium,
Right.
right? So, and you can do this on with really young children. You're obviously not going to sit your 4-year-old down and say, okay, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and no,
Right.
you have to get on their level,
Yep.
right? That's what I mean about there's no divide between my daughter and I, right? When my daughter's into something, I get to her level
Yep.
and and relate to her and give her that good eye contact and quality time.
Right. Yep.
So, and this is and like we talked about earlier, time, right? I mean, this is the true currency of reality,
It's
time and
time.
attention.
Yep.
And most people they sacrifice time and attention and they give that to government institutions,
Yep. And
and
another thing.
substitute for what they believe is education
Right.
or helping their child, but it's the furthest from the truth. It's,
Right.
I mean, like you said, it is completely extreme and ridiculous that most parents give their child up for 7-8 hours a day 5 days a week
Yep.
for 12 years. Like, I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yep.
It is crazy to strangers, and not only strangers, but strangers that are promoting a curriculum by the government,
Yep.
right? The
Y-
government and the cultural institutions that are from the government as well that want to enslave humanity.
Right.
So
It
maybe we can
is it.
transition into
Well, yeah. Well, that.
homeschooling and stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I wanted to bring up because I'm glad you kind of ended on that because what the trend that I find disturbing, Will, and I've talked about this actually on my radio show and I think with another guest, and I'm seeing this more and more, and it's really bothering me. So I'm going to try to explain to you. When we were growing up, we didn't have internet. I try to tell people that when I was growing up, there was no such thing as internet. We barely had a good video game. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
totally different. So that's why I spent a lot of time outside with friends and learning and exploring. I was encouraged to explore my environment and learn about things. What I'm seeing now, and I see this firsthand by some of by people I know with children, is they are turning their children over to technology. They are as soon as the kid. I see so many young children with a phone in their hand or a tablet, and they're just glued to it. And if they, for some reason, don't have this tablet or they don't have their phone, they have a total breakdown. Like, it is so disturbing to see. And I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it with my own eyes, so I know it's happening. And parents are letting technology raise their kids. And I just want you to touch on that. I see the problems with the way that the social media is and the bullying that's going on social media. You know, back in our day, if you got in a bully situation, it was usually one on one. They didn't make a Facebook page or attack you on the social media like they do now. I can't even imagine the damage this is doing, Will, to young people. It's what's going to happen with these when the children grow up is disturbing to me. It can't be good.
Yeah, it is disturbing. Now we need to understand that there's only two ways to create change, and that is philosophy, which is internal,
Mm-hmm.
dialogue using even the steps that we talked about, the
Yep.
trivium, and technology, right, which is the external
Mm-hmm.
modality. So technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. Me
Exactly.
personally, me being an animist, I love being close to the earth. But yet I am a content creator, so I use technology in a positive way to,
Exactly.
to promote a message of truth and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yes, parents they introduce their children to technology extremely early. And what are they really doing? Like, they're using the iPad
Yep.
and TV as babysitters,
I
right?
was going
So
to
they're
say that.
sacrificing again. We all sacrifice. The term sacrifice can be positive or negative,
Mm-hmm.
right? You and I are sacrificing time right now to do this interview.
Right.
So you have to pick and choose, like, what are you sacrificing and what for?
Right.
So yes, parents are sacrificing the time and the attention, and they're giving their children these devices and stuff. Now, the television was created um, by the government, right? When
Yep.
it first came out, they know the implications of what programming,
It's right in the word. It's right.
television
Yep.
would do to the human psyche. Why? Because the social engineers are advanced psychologists, just like you say, Rick. They
Yeah.
know how the human mind works. So anyone that has any kind of device and has experienced their young children with devices know that once they're glued to it, they're glued and there is an addiction.
Exactly.
And then if you try to take it away, there's a withdrawal period.
Yep.
So, we've all experienced that. So there's a fine line, and this is where the conscious parenting, the awareness comes into play with responding to your children and again educating them,
Mm-hmm.
educating to lead one out of darkness, the darkness of ignorance, and talk to your children. My daughter is 8. She knows what's going on in the world. I don't lie to her,
Right.
and I tell her the hard truth about how things are. And then we use the trivium, and she can observe and apply critical thinking to the best of how she knows it, and she can see what's going on in the world.
Yep.
So I'm all for um, being completely honest with your children, and again with discretion, right? But
Right. Yeah.
don't
Exactly.
sugarcoat it to them. They can handle it. In fact, young kids are less programmed than adults.
Makes sense.
So they can handle truth better than most adults that are programmed and conditioned and are under emotional heart control and
Mm-hmm.
mind control. And they freak out when you try to uh, communicate anything that goes against their erroneous belief systems.
Yep.
So children can handle it. So again, when it comes to technology, um, you know, be the example, let them know it's a tool and when it is appropriate to use it and not use it. Now,
Right.
I'll say this real quick too, because I'm a huge supporter of Dana Martin. Dana Martin she's also on the One Great Work
Right. Yep.
network. She is a phenomenal mentor. She's got a few books out. One of them that's phenomenal is Radical Unschooling. She's pretty much she didn't like come up with homeschooling. I forget the guy's name. This was back way back. I think in the 60s, no, the 70s. Yeah. Anyways, but she's one of the biggest proponents for unschooling.
For sure.
And
Right.
now, and if some of the viewers are familiar with Dana Martin, she takes a very um, moral and full freedom approach, which I totally support, but it might not be for everyone. And this is what I'm getting to is I highly recommend people read her book and check out her presentations, but understand that every family is different,
Yes.
right? So when we see someone like Dana Martin or some or a different uh, someone else, right? And then we think that we want to be that and bring that into our family. It might not jive. But what you have to understand is the principles that someone like Dana Martin is talking about applies to all family. And
Right.
that's children rights, what is freedom, and morality. This is our underlining message. So there's going to be, it's up to each family to kind of find their balance within the parental dance that
Right.
how parenting goes, and to find their kind of their niche. But there
Okay.
are some things that are very important, and that is obviously public education is not good whatsoever
Oh,
for the mind
yeah.
of a child.
I think it back to like and when I was telling you about my shadow work, I think back to my public school days in that Catholic school, and there was a lot of trauma going on, meant like that I had to work through. It was very damaging, like and just from the way that they were teaching and stuff, and it was so. I mean, that's another topic. I don't want to just go off on a tangent on that. I've done that before. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's talk about homeschooling because this is. I was telling you when I talked to one of my friends who has children and I brought up homeschooling, this just triggered them. That was where they kind of got upset with me because I told them that, and how our conversation started was I told them about your presentation, and then I told them that if I ever, and I've been saying this for years to my wife for oh my god forever. I said if we ever do have kids, I'm going to homeschool them. Like we're going to homeschool them. I'm not putting them in the education system. I just won't. I will find a way to do it. Now, what I hear from parents when I bring this up, the first thing they say is, "How do you expect me to homeschool when I have to work to feed my kids? I got to work to put a roof over their head. There's no
Hmm.
time for me to homeschool." And I would not be fair if I wasn't going to ask you a hard question like that. I know there's no easy answer, but that's what I hear all the time. And so I have to bring that up. That's the first thing they say is, "How do you expect me to homeschool when I don't have time to do anything? I'm just working to pay the bills." So what do you, I want to touch on homeschooling. I think it's absolutely important, but we got to address what do parents do that are in that situation where they're both working and I know the answer, but what I would do, but I want to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a very, very common question. And first, we'll divide this in two categories:
Okay.
parents that are together, and then parents that are separated and
Very
co-parenting.
important. Yep.
Because this is huge. And again, I'm in a co-parenting situation. So parents that are together, right? The first and foremost thing is understanding and being aware of your programming.
Mhm.
Because when someone hears homeschooling, most people think that you are mimicking public school atmosphere in
100%.
in your home,
Yep.
meaning, oh my gosh, I work from 9 to 5, and a child if we're going to homeschool, that means we're doing homeschool from 9 to 5,
Yep.
workbooks, I mean, they're just mimicking the schedule and the curriculum of public school.
You're 100%
and
right.
and that's not the route you want to go. That's not it. Mimicking that atmosphere is damaging, absolutely.
Right.
So, and there's a whole bunch of other things that go with that, but recognize and question and communicate with your partner about programming and conditioning. What do you believe? And look at those beliefs to see if they actually have any validity,
Mhm.
right? And and then if the parents are together, understand what is the value of your child's mind and
Yep.
freedom. If both parents are working, then you're gonna have to do some serious introspection to maybe to have either you guys go back and forth on working or one parent works, um, or something like that. But there's going to be, like I said, there's going to be
I was
sacrifice.
just gonna say you got to start making some sacrifices. That's what the answer
Yes.
I give to people.
Yeah, exactly. And most people, oh shit, I got to stay home at or something like that. They get all butt hurt and they don't want
Yep.
to do it. It's like, well, then, to be frank, that's inconsiderate parenting,
Hmm.
and that's hard for a lot of parents to hear. Now, obviously, let's use the trivium method, right? You have to gather your information, gather the knowledge. There are, especially nowadays, actually, there are tons of unschooling and homeschooling networks within communities.
Yep.
All you have to do is apply the time and attention and start to do your research, and you will find some kind of organization or even just homeschooling parents that meet together, right? And you would be surprised if both parents work that there are groups, homeschooling groups that, they go on field trips or they take turns at people's houses and stuff. Now,
Hmm.
I am all about natural learning, meaning learning it does not take place just only within the house,
Yep.
right? You got to go outside, you got to experience the world. This is how we learn lessons. We experience the world.
Yep.
And, learning isn't on a schedule, right? So, my daughter's mom and I mean, we homeschooled for 7 years, right? And learning was any time of day,
Yep.
right? I mean, it was really fun. It was really awesome.
Which learning
Um,
should be fun. I think learning should be fun, right? I mean, I've always thought that, and you're right. I learned so much exploring the world when I was growing up. I mean, I don't even see kids outside anymore, which is really disturbing to me too. In my neighborhood, when I was growing up, there was always kids out in the neighborhood doing stuff. They were playing sports, they were going on hikes, they were riding bikes. I don't see anything anymore, Will, and I'm just being honest. In my neighborhood, I don't see kids playing outside at all. It's
yeah,
totally different. They're all in their house on their computers or on their gaming systems.
yes, yeah, absolutely, man. It's just creating the mental schism. Another big thing that people say is like, "Oh, you homeschool your child, or aren't you afraid that they're going to be socially awkward?"
I was going to
It's
bring that
like,
up next.
that's like one of the biggest things. And you
Yeah.
know what? And again, looking at one's own programming and conditioning, right? That someone that says that is 100% ignorant of what homeschooling or unschooling is, and they're ignorant of their own conditioning, right?
Hmm.
First of all, the modern day children in public school and just culture itself is extremely um, mentally just damaged,
Hmm.
right? We're living in a diseased society.
Yes.
So if yeah, I don't want my daughter to be like that as well, and that's where culture comes into play. Because you give you sacrifice your children to public school. What happens in public school besides the indoctrination going on? Culture.
For
This is
sure.
where they have the social dynamics that introduce them to culture, mainstream popular culture.
Hmm.
That's where it gets hooked too. And culture absolutely puts a wedge between parents and children,
Yep.
right? We could see this through the generations, right? Oh, well, your parents just aren't hip, or
Yeah.
or whatever. Um,
It's
so
true.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh,
and
absolutely.
that's what I was just gonna. I'm glad you brought that up again because that was my next point that I was gonna make because that's what my friend said was if you're homeschooling, you have to have your his comment was if you have to have your child in school because it's where they meet their friends and it gives them structure and it teaches them how to interact with other children. That was what he said to me. So I was like, okay, I got to make a note of that in my mind when I talk to Will and bring it up during this interview because I'm just bringing up what parents are telling me. So I thought that's why I'd bring it up to you. And
Yeah.
that's what they tell me. They're like, they school gets some structure. I don't agree with it's not good structure if you want to call it that.
So
And yeah,
let, let's actually talk about like what you just said, and that's a very common response that a lot of people, right? They want their children to learn how to interact with other people,
yes,
right? And this is normally, it's in, the formative years and shortly after. Wouldn't you want your child to understand the basic functions of themselves and know themselves over um, learning from other kids on how to act and behave?
Yeah.
This is another part of psychological transference where kids start to go to school, public school, and then they immediately start taking on these personas or identities,
Yep. To what's
and
popular, right? What
to
the other
what's
kid.
popular,
Yeah.
or they find their little clique and stuff like that. Um, my daughter, I mean, it's just mind blowing how well she knows herself. Like, she knows what she wants. She understands herself, and she interacts with kids absolutely fine. And this is not to say that just because you're homeschooling or unschooling, your kids are never going to see another kid or interact with another human being. Like,
Yep.
come on, that's way out there,
Yeah.
way out there.
Well, yeah, because there's parks and there's we got to get back to to community too. I think is big, right? Like getting to know the people in your community that have children and getting to know each other and your children interacting with each other and playing together and all of these good things, going to each other's house and stuff like that. If you want your child to learn how to interact, you don't need to bring it to a school, your child to a school by any stretch of the word. There is other ways. That's what I told my friend. I said that's a really a cop out answer. I think
It
when you
is.
say that, oh well, that's where they meet their friends. That's not true.
Well, they say that too because the majority of time spent is at school.
Yep.
So, the immediate thought is, well, that's just a lot more time that I have to be with my child. And
Yep.
a lot of parents might get upset at that, but that's the truth. You have to spend more time with your children.
Yep.
That's the whole point, right? Is that the government institutions are the primary influencer in your child's life.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's what we're talking about. And
Yeah.
again, so I highly recommend people do their research and look up some of these homeschooling and unschooling communities and groups, and they're everywhere. And it's really easy nowadays with social media and everything. I guarantee you there's going to be a few, especially with the whole socially perceived crisis that's going on.
Yep.
People have pulled their kids out of school and stuff. And ultimately, homeschooling is where it starts. You want to get to a place of unschooling or self-directed learning.
Yes.
This is natural learning where the child has a big say on what they want to learn about. Now, a lot of people hear that and go, well, my kid hates to read, so that means my child will never want to read and then will be illiterate and won't know how to read. And that is not correct
Yep.
at all. Your child will want to read at some point because almost everything in getting up to your adult life, you're going to have to learn how to read,
Yep.
right? They're going to want to learn how to read and be internally motivated and then go from there. Now,
Exactly.
again, you're an influencer, right? You're an influencer, so you can help guide and facilitate, and with reading and math and all this stuff, it's no problem. But
Yep.
the whole atmosphere of, sit down and cramming it and forcing it onto children is definitely it's not a learning process at all.
Exactly, and I think about how they do it in school too, Will, where you're jumping from subject to subject, right? Like it's like okay, in the morning you got math, and then an hour later you're in science, and then you're going to geography, then you're going to religion or something like that. I mean, the brain, now that I think about it, the poor young mind is just getting horribly abused. I mean, people don't learn like that. I mean, it's amazing that parents haven't figured this out yet and started to realize that this is so damaging. Just jumping subjects that quick and, learn as much as you can. You're in school 8 hours a day. I totally agree that people have to start looking into homeschooling. I 100% agree that we got to get out of this schooling system.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. I mean, even I'm in California, and the mask mandates have been lifted for already a few months now,
Yeah, about a month
and
here. Yeah.
I still see parents wearing masks
Mm-hmm.
and masks on their children. In fact, I see, the parents don't have masks on because they've been genetically modified, but their children are still wearing masks. If you have a mask on your children, you're a bad parent. I'm sorry if that hurts, but you're a bad parent. It's been 2.5 years. There's no deadly virus that's going to kill anyone. You have the mask on your child because you've been mind controlled.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. And what you're doing to your children will have incredible, devastating effects on their psyche.
I
And
agree.
that's what we were talking about earlier with generational mind control. That's why when a public school, it's out of, it's the end of the day and kids are walking home and kids still have the masks on. They've been programmed and conditioned. They don't want to take them off,
Yep.
right? So we're creating these psychological issues within the children.
Very
So
young
yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Very
Uh,
young.
pull your kids out for sure. And there's other means as well. When I was saying about like homeschooling organizations,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of states and countries that the government, might come knock on your door if your child's not in school, right?
Right.
Or
Yes.
you're not communicating with the state. Here in California, they call you a truant. The child is a truant, and the parent can get fines and all that stuff, right? There's many ways around these,
Okay,
many
that's good to
ways.
know. And that's disturbing how they want to once again divide people, right? So if you're homeschooling, let's give them a label and divide them. And I'm seeing that with the vaccines. I mean, if you're not vaccinated, you're getting it's all dividing from what I see. And that they divide, right? They divide the family, they divide they're dividing people that aren't that haven't got the jab and who have, that's definitely part of their gameplay. And from what I see, and I also agree with what you're saying with the mask, because I'll see parents put the mask on their child and the child's losing their mind, like they don't want it on, and the parents
Exactly.
reassuring them, and oh no, just wear it, your mommy will be happy if you wear it, you have to wear this. And I'm just thinking, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it to my kid. And no, I
Yeah,
just wouldn't.
I'll bet anything that when parents first started forcing, violating their children to wear the mask, guarantee you the children put up a fight.
Yep. It's not
Screamed,
natural.
yelled, no, ripped it off, no way. And yet, what did the parents do? They did exactly what the government wants them to do, and it's what's the government is doing nowadays, right? Which is uh, keeping people in a state of duress and coercion and violence and
Yep.
violating our rights.
Yep.
And this is extremely important for parents to understand this and become aware of the current human condition, the atmosphere, what's going on,
Yep.
and become their child's freedom advocate,
For
right?
sure. 100%. And I agree. I still see there, and where I live, there's people actually fighting to get the mandates brought back. It blows my mind, Will, that they're actually fighting to get the mandates for wear mask, because we lost ours about a month ago, that you don't have to wear a mask or show your passport or anything like that. And there's actually people fighting to get the mask mandates back. They're upset that they were ever dropped. They think that everybody should still be wearing a mask. And I agree with you. I still see tons of adults wearing a mask, and I see a lot of kids wearing masks still. And
Yeah.
I just keep thinking, like, the damage that this is doing, it's got to have damage that's lasting damage that we haven't even begun to see the damage from all of this to the family unit. And I think about, and I've talked to parents too, that because I've had a few parents say, well, this whole pandemic or whatever you want to call it brought families closer because they were in the house together and they were closer. And I'm thinking that sounds like that, but when you look at the divorce rates and the domestic abuse rates going up and all of this, the way they designed it over all of these years, keeping children in school and parents at work, the family dynamic at home has been destroyed. Their families aren't used to being locked in a house together like that anymore. So
Yeah.
it's not what they think. I don't think people. I think they think because the families are all together that it's a great thing, and I think it's not. I think that it's designed. It's going against what they've been programmed all these years.
Yeah, for sure. They know that there's going to be issues there and stuff. And real quick, let's touch on this because
Yeah.
I failed to mention about
Okay.
the co-parenting
Oh,
aspect.
perfect. Right.
And so co-parenting is the most common
Mm-hmm.
situation, right? And this can be really tough because especially with what's going on nowadays, one parent might want their kid to get violated and get the the
No
needle
one.
craft,
Yep.
the genetic
I
modification.
know somebody going
So
through it right now.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. And this is some advice if I can give any. Um, First, you need to have a line of communication open with the other parent as best as possible,
Hmm.
meaning that you might have to put some egoic issues aside to communicate with the other parent. I'm in a co-parenting situation, and I'm actually extremely blessed because my daughter's mother and I see eye to eye on principles, on what
Amazing.
what is most important, principles, first things first.
Yep.
So, we agree on many things, which, it's the best for our daughter.
Right.
And this is what co-parenting, this is what parents need to understand, is that everything that you do with the other parent will be directly influenced and have an effect onto your child.
Yep.
Now, I know this is kind of tricky because it can get pretty ugly when there's a co-parenting situation, right?
Yes.
But all you can do, drop my pen. All you can do is focus on yourself. You can't force the other parent to do a certain behavior, but what you can try to do is influence and educate. So do what you can, and put the petty emotional stuff aside. Don't react, respond, and try to keep that line of communication open, and communicate to your parents, or within the other parent, as
Right.
best as possible. And a lot of parents never think about the effect that it has on their children, right?
Right.
So I um, my daughter's mother she also does like behavioral counseling for kids as well. And there was a child that was crying. She was 9 years old, 9 or 10 years old, crying her eyes out because her parents fight all the time and they're in a co-parenting situation. Well, the mom wanted the child to get the needlecraft,
Hmm.
and the dad didn't want it, right? So they were having this war, right? And it was going into the courts and all that stuff, right? Of course, the courts are going to side with the mom because that's how it
Exactly.
is. It's rigged,
Yep.
for that kind of stuff. But so my daughter's mother asked the child, "Well, what do you want to do?" And the little girl said, "It's my body. I don't want it. I don't know what it is. I don't want it." And so it's really important to understand child's rights. And people might hear that and go, "Oh, well, the kid doesn't understand what's going on. Big scary virus, blah blah blah." All that BS. But my
Hmm.
point is that ask your child on certain things. Don't feel like you have to make all the decisions for your child.
Hmm.
Your child's opinion matters. So, especially if it's directly related to them. So even on little things, with what like my daughter and I are going to do for the weekend and stuff, or if she's going to spend, it's my weekend, but she has something going on with friends at her mom's house, and I ask her, well, what do you want to do?
Yep.
I'm just giving you little examples. So,
Well, and
um,
children are smarter than people think. That's another thing I've always noticed is that a lot of parents, I don't think they realize, and like I see it, kids are smart and they're like little sponges. Like I mean, they learn, like it's incredible. I mean, like, and I just think that people have to, and I totally agree. I think people have to start realizing that their kids are a lot smarter than you think they are. They see a lot more than you think they do. They hear a lot more than you think they do. And
oh yeah,
I agree. You're like, you have to start listening to your kid a little more and not look at them as you're ruling over them. And as what I say goes, my dad used to say that to me all the time. I'm the father, listen to me, kind of thing. Didn't matter about
exactly.
what it was. I mean, it's like, don't I have a say in this? And I was told no. And I mean, so I get why people think that, but I'm saying I love your advice that listen to your child. I mean, it matters, especially when it comes to certain things that directly affect them, like that, like getting, the needle craft. That's
Yep.
huge, huge.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, especially young children, right? The parents are either going to be one or two things. They're either going to be um, the freedom advocate, meaning the child's going to get their first life dose of freedom and what freedom is
Hmm.
and how to create freedom from their parents
For
first
sure.
and
Yep.
foremost. or they're going to get the dose of the tyrannical parents that use coercion and violate rights and do what I said because I said so, or you better clean your room, or I'm going to do this to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or they're going to get that end of the spectrum. So we need to make the conscious choice to be our children's freedom advocate,
100%.
especially if we want to create and see freedom in the world at large.
Yep.
And it always with the state of mind. And this is why conscious parenting will lead to conscious beings, meaning human beings that know and exercise their conscious, meaning they know the difference between right and wrong. And this always begins or fails within the family dynamic, with the parents and the children.
100%. Well, I couldn't have said that better. That was amazing. That was so well said and so true. Like, just true. Uh, before we wrap up, is there anything that you want that we missed that you think we should cover? I want to leave that to you. Like, let you make sure that you got everything that you think is very important to get parents on the right path. And
Oh yeah, I mean, this is just scratching the surface.
exactly.
I highly recommend people go check out my two-part conscious parenting for conscious beings
Amazing.
presentations.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yep, there's part one and part two. They're both going to be. I guess we'll put links in the
I'll put links.
description.
Yep, I'll put links for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, parents or anyone, again, these principles are universal, but check it out and feel free to message me. I like to return emails and engage in conversation. And
Perfect.
again, my website is naturalfreedomleague.com, and I'm also on the One Great Work Network under Will Keller. And you know what? I have a quote by Dana Martin, and we mentioned her, and I highly recommend people checking Dana Martin out. So if you don't mind, Rick, I'll read this quote that she
For
has
sure.
from one of her books.
Yes.
Children do not need to be shaped or molded. They are not clay to be controlled in your hands to your vision of beauty. Instead, they need to be released from your expectation and fear. When you let go and allow them to shape who they are, something amazing happens. You will see a stunning creation appear in ways that you could have never imagined. Your vision of beauty and potential is limited due to your own conditioning. So, release them. Let your children's gloriousness evolve with love and support, and allow them the freedom to create themselves. In doing so, you will see an expression of human form take shape that will change the world. Dana Martin.
Wow.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. It is incredible, and what a great way to end it. I think that's such a great point to end on.
Awesome.
It is, really is. And I want to thank you, Will, once again for joining me. You know, you're always welcome back. I really, really enjoy our conversations. I've learned so much from your work. We're going to have you on my radio show this Monday coming up. We're going to have a couple of, so let people know who we're going to have with us. I mean, I gotta let you announce it because we got a star panel that's going to be on the show on Revolution Radio this Monday evening. And it's going to be amazing. We're going to be talking about this, and go ahead and let people know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll be on there with Rick, and then also my good friends Rob and Jen. They are conscious parents that have 4 kids. They have they also did a presentation at the Funnel Conference. It was
Amazing.
called Natural Law Birth: Breaking the Karmic Cycle. Yeah, phenomenal presentation on unassisted birth,
Yep.
which is huge. So they're going to dive into unassisted birth, conscious parenting, and conscious conception as well.
Amazing.
And then I'll bring my input on conscious parenting. So it's going to be a very impactful episode
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure. I'm looking forward to it so much. And I'll leave a link to the Funnel Conference. So there's going to be a lot of links, guys, on this one. But I think they're important, and I hope you guys check them out. So thank you so much, Will, for taking the time, as I said, to come here. You're always welcome. And keep up doing the great work, man. You're doing amazing. and just keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing, and I think it's reaching a lot of people and doing a lot of good. I mean, my hat's off to you, sir.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you very much, and thank you to all the listeners and viewers for their time and attention. And we'll talk soon, Rick.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Well, you have yourself a great evening, and I'll talk to you very soon.
All right, brother.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care, brother.
Bye bye.
Well, there we have it. I tell you, I always say it, another amazing interview. And I just have to say that because these interviews are amazing and some serious knowledge is being dropped and stuff to make you really sit back and I hope make you think. And that's what I hope these interviews are doing and start to make you want to look into these topics and start doing your own research. Like I always tell people, don't believe what I'm saying or other people are saying. Take in the knowledge and start researching it yourself. And it's an amazing journey what you're going to find out. And I really enjoy the guest I've been having on here on my video interviews that I do, and also on Revolution Radio where I'm on Monday evenings, Studio A from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So definitely if you like the radio style, I really enjoy doing that, and I have amazing guests there where we just cover all of these topics. We talk about natural law, we talk about objective morality, we talk about freedom, and I think it's just now it's more important than ever to start talking about this because I've been saying it for a long time that the master psychologists, as I call them, the dark master psychologists, let me add that in, that are and the social engineers that are running this world right now are really doing a good job at it. And I just see people so divided on so many topics and how they're destroying the family unit, and I've been seeing that over a lot of years. I was saying to Will, like, when I was growing up, it was very rare that I hung around anyone in my group of friends that didn't have two parents in the house. Like if I had one friend that just lived with his dad, but he didn't. They were divorced, and it was just the father raising the child, my friend, and it was kind of weird to all of us because we were like, well, we have two parents. When you're young, that's how you kind of think, right? Like, well, we have two parents. Why don't you have two parents? It's kind of weird. And now, as I was saying to Will, it's totally flipped. Like now, it's really rare, at least from in my experience, and that's all I can give is what I see, is that it's really rare that there's two parents in the house and raising the child. And it's kind of like a co-parenting, as Will was saying. I see a lot. It's a lot of that, and in that aspect of it. So I think Will was just dropping some serious great knowledge today, and I learned so much from watching all these creators on the One Great Network. It's just amazing stuff, and I really enjoy interviewing them. And I hope you guys are enjoying these interviews and taking something away from this and learning about it. And it makes you want to look into it more because I just find it fascinating looking into these things and learning. I want to know how the real world works. I want to know that, you know what I mean? And I've always known that the version they're giving us is not the real world. And I think that people don't realize the world they live in. And when you start diving into these topics and realizing how bad they're pulling the wool over people's eyes and how bad they are mind controlling people, and it's a real eye opener. And I always said, like, COVID really gave me an eye opener when I saw how quickly everyone just, how quickly everything happened and there wasn't really a fight anywhere, like it was really an eye opener for me. And that's when I got the kick in the ass that I got to start trying to talk to educate people about how the world really is. And I just enjoy interviewing people that can pass this knowledge on to you guys. And I learn along the way too. Like I said, I love learning and I'm all for it. And so great stuff, and I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I thank you guys so much for taking the time to come and watch these videos and leave your comments. If you want to email me, it's not hard. Just message me, email me, I should say, at binthinkingpodcast@gmail.com. So binthinkingpodcast@gmail.com if you want to be a guest on the show, or you just want to send me an email, tell me your story or anything like that. That would be very, very cool. By all means, do that. I love reading your comments in the comments section. And I got a lot of great guests still coming up. I'm doing interviews, like, got a few more already lined up. And so, going to be a lot of great interviews with great, amazing guests on here coming up. So, please check in, keep your notifications on. So, when I put one up, that you guys get it right away and know to check it in. Because great knowledge coming around. And I mean, I just want people to take advantage of that and start learning about it and looking into it. So, as I said, you can find me also at Revolution Radio. And just go to freedomslips.com. And as I said, Monday nights, I'm on Studio A from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. That's Eastern Standard Time. And so definitely check it out there. I hope to see you guys there. It's a lot of fun. I love old school radio. I just love that style. I grew up listening to radio, right? So, I mean, I just like that whole format. So, I always have great guests on there every Monday evening, too. And these are the topics we're covering: natural law, objective morality, the occult, all of these things, freedom. Like, I've had guests that we cover so much, and I just really hope you guys check it out. And just remember that your story is interesting, and you know why it's interesting? Because it is your unique story, and that is what makes it interesting to me. So take care, guys. Stay safe, and I'll definitely see you guys when I have post another video. And I hope to see you then. Take care, guys. Peace.
Are you interested in the paranormal? Murder mysteries, cryptocurrency, and thought-provoking interviews? Then check out Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking on YouTube, or every Monday night at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Studio A at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Welcome to the Crypt.